All right, we're so glad to be here together. I'm outnumbered today. There's going to be three women, beautiful women here, and we're going to be talking about some amazing things. So we have Kristen. We have two Kristens and a Sue. Okay, so Kristen Chevrier, beautiful French name, and you're outside in your backyard, beautiful place. And you are the director of what?
Your Health Freedom Utah and Your Health Freedom. It's kind of we have a 501c3, and then we also have a legislative branch. So Your Health Freedom Utah is the legislative side. So
Perfect.
It's an advocacy group that's been in Utah for 10 years, and we advocate for informed consent and health freedom, and just educating the public and the legislators and all of the policymakers on health freedom issues.
Beautiful. And we're going to get more into that. And then the other Kristen we have is Kristen LeBaron. And Kristen, what's your involvement and who are you, just briefly? And we'll get into more of this in just a little bit.
So I've been working with Kristen Chevrier and our other assistant director, who's Melissa Anderson, for 9 or 10 years now, just working on the same efforts. I have kids that were injured by vaccines as babies, and so I started more in the autism world and kind of transitioned over to Your Health Freedom and just protecting people's health decisions, giving them the opportunity to make the best health decisions for their families, giving them best education opportunities. And anyway, we've been working together for a long time now. It's been fabulous.
Beautiful. So you and I met at the Protocol 7 movie in Heber, Heber City. And that was an amazing event, sponsored by Cardio Miracle. But that movie was just incredible. I don't think you've seen it yet.
I haven't seen it
because you've been.
I was gone.
You were gone. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So thank you, both of you, for coming on our show. We right off the bat, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I want to talk about your fundraiser. It's once a year. It's to kind of help get the word out, and it requires money. So you have a fundraiser, and we have this gala event that's coming this Friday, right?
Yes.
Would one of you want to speak to that, and we'll cover it more later, but just there's some tickets available. Let's talk about that. There's a cost to it because it is a fundraiser, and who the keynote speaker. This is the big keynote speaker.
Yeah, that's the best part. Yeah. Okay, so for the last 10 years, 9-10 years, we have done an event every year. And we started out with just a symposium where we had speakers. We were very lucky the first year we had.
I think she's cutting out.
Yeah, I wonder if she needs to move inside.
We're not getting your feed there. Well, Kristen, number 2, do you want to kind of speak to
Suzanne
it?
Humphreys and Silhouette Caught, even knew how lucky we were at that point. Maybe. Tell me when you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. So,
I'm wondering
start over again.
Yeah.
Okay, so
maybe you need to move closer to your router where they can hear you, because it was all frozen.
Right.
So you may need to start over.
I didn't think about that part. I should have done it on my phone, and then you could have heard me just fine. Okay,
totally
so let's see, where was I? So did you get the part about 9 years we've been doing this?
9 years. Yep.
You didn't get it? Okay. And we had the first year, we had Suzanne Humphreys, we had Andy Wakefield, we had Silhouette Caught, we had just an all-star cast. And since then, we've done it every single year. And this year, we have John Stockton, which we are so excited about.
So awesome.
We've been trying to get him for a couple of years now, just trying to figure out how to make the connection. And then it took a long time after that to make sure his schedule was clear. And it's just been, we've worked on it for quite a while, and we are thrilled that he is coming. He, as far as I can tell, and I don't know him very well, but he seems to be just the most down to earth, very humble person who feels a need to fight for health freedom. And he's put everything on the line for it. And we are just honored to have him come. I can't think of anybody I would rather have than John Stockton. So what we do at this gala is it's a fundraiser. So when we're doing health freedom advocacy, it costs money to do it. You need things like you need to pay for things like constant contact, so we can send out thousands of emails. We need to make flyers and other educational materials. We've done billboards, we've done banners over the freeways. We go to conferences to learn more about health freedom, and it costs money to do that. And so just some people will tell you it costs $10,000 to pass a bill. I think we do it for much less than that. But yeah, we've been working on bills this whole time, ever since 10 years ago. That was actually what kind of brought all of the three of us together, was a bill in the legislature that was going to make it so that you, if you were wanting an exemption for your child for any vaccine, you would have to take an education module, which I call the indoctrination module. And then they wanted you to come to the health department. They wanted you to pay a fee, and they wanted all this stuff. And that's kind of, I think that's where the three of us, Melissa and Kristen and I, met. And that is where Your Health Freedom Utah came from, because we saw the need. We saw that this was the beginning and not the end, and that there was going to be a need for fighting for health freedom. And so we formed this organization. And so we educate people. We do a symposium, have done a symposium every year until this year. This year we didn't do the symposium part because there were so many great people running for office, and we needed people to focus on getting those people elected. And so we put our energy and our time into that rather than planning a full-scale symposium. So this year it's the gala. It's our annual fundraiser. And we also, we're so excited about John Stockton that we forget to mention the other person that we're really excited about, which is Brian Hooker. Brian is a rock star himself. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Vaxxed. Did you see the movie?
I did not.
Vaxxed? So
I
Brian
don't know.
is the one. Do you want to tell him about Vaxxed, Kristen? About who
So just like
Brian
when you
is?
watched Protocol 7, that was the story about the conflict or the issues behind the scenes of the mumps vaccine. Well, Vax talks a lot about the MMR vaccine and some of the problems behind the scenes in the CDC and some of the scientists. And so one's about the mumps, one's about MMR, and it just opens your eyes to some of the corruption behind the making of vaccines, many of them on the childhood schedule that, you know, most of our children are getting or have received. So it's just an eye-opening video. And when I watched it for the first time, and Polly Tommy, she talks about the story of her son, and Polly Tommy's son and my daughter Jenna are about the same age, and their stories are almost exactly identical. So it was a very emotional experience for my husband and I to watch Vax, realizing her story is exactly my story. We were just having it here in the United States, and she was having the same experience in England at the same time.
So this is personal stuff for you guys.
Absolutely.
Now, I have to just remind us all that I've had strikes against me on YouTube for mentioning some of this. So if we could say jabbed, that's very helpful instead of the V word.
Okay.
Because I want the word to go out, but we have to kind of speak in code. I think we're okay so far. I've learned over time. I have fought YouTube, and it's getting easier to get the message out now. Whereas before, I couldn't say hardly anything. We probably will get a warning that will show up on this. It's not a warning. It's a
demerit.
Yeah, you'll get flagged.
it's like an alert.
Yeah,
That,
it's an alert.
but it doesn't hurt. In fact, I like that. I wear that as a badge of honor to have that alert on there. So that's no big deal. But these are real issues. Now back to the gala. How can people and I'll put the information in the comment section. But if somebody wants to go and pay for the ticket to contribute to this great cause, how can they do that?
Yourhealthfreedom.org is our website, and
Okay.
the ticket link is prominent right on the opening page of the website. So yourhealthfreedom.org. A lot of people get confused and say, oh, My Health Freedom, but the name of the group is Your Health Freedom.
Okay, I have that right here. I'll put that on there,
Okay.
and then they can see. And there's not that many tickets left, from what I understand.
No, this morning there were 17. Let me tell you just a little more about Brian Hooker. Brian he is a scientist, and he used to work for the University of California. He did a study where he compared vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Oh, I said the word, shoot, sorry. Jabbed versus unjabbed people.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And so since then, he and Bobby Kennedy have compiled a book of studies. It's an entire book. Have you read it?
I have it, but I know who you're talking about now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So the two of them compiled a whole bunch of different studies on this issue, and it's a fascinating read. So we asked him to come speak actually before he'd written the book, but after he'd done his study. We asked him to come and speak, and University of California, it was, I think, 2021. And University of California would not let him leave California and return to his job. So he had to go on Zoom to talk to us at our event or lose his job. So we're super excited to have him in person now.
I can't wait to hear him. So back to John Stockton too, we can talk about, because so retired, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, no question about it. But the professional athletes were all basically on board to get the jab, and he was shamed so bad by his stance. And now the evidence is there to support him, and the noise is quieting down a little bit. But it's amazing that someone of his popularity, that he took the stand, even though he knew he was going to get grief. And I think in a small way, all of us that here, we've experienced the same thing, in our communities, and some in Utah. It's a little tricky because we have the church culture as well that you deal with, whether you're a member or not of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which we are. You have that culture that is something that you have to deal with, and then you have the political and the government and big pharma and all that you're dealing with. So it's pretty unique here, I think, in Utah, of what we juggle, the balls we have up in the air that then we try to catch. I mean, I know it's kind of a sensitive topic, and trust me, I've dealt with it a lot on this channel. Do you have any insights on that, or anything you want to say?
It's just the corporation versus, speaking about the church, the corporation versus the gospel. And so you have to really differentiate the two, because the gospel's true. The corporation is a corporation.
I think that's perfectly said. So this is a unique opportunity for people to get involved in an organization that they might not have even been aware of, but they have been affected by these nefarious, I'll call them nefarious substances that are in some cases forced. Now, we have a real personal situation. It doesn't have to do with the jab necessarily, but our 5-year-old granddaughter passed away in February. And she was diagnosed with leukemia, and I can't remember what type it was, but the day I was actually with my daughter on the day in Texas, this is in Texas, so not Utah, but in Texas, the day that the diagnosis came out, we were at a hospital, and the doctor came in with 6 other specialists and people involved. And they said, your daughter's not leaving the hospital, and we're going to begin the treatments. And if you go against this, then I will be forced to turn you into CPS.
Oh.
I heard it myself. I heard this. I was in the room, and I couldn't even believe it. And
well, also, the little girl from the family, she had a 5-month-old sister, a 2-year-old brother, and at that time it was a 5-year-old sister. So 5-month, 2-year, 5-year. And so here our daughter is, they're 45 to an hour away from home, and she has a nursing baby. And she says, well, I need to go home and get some things organized, and we need to pray about this as a family. And they said, you cannot.
yeah.
I'm so
So-
sorry that you had to go through that, and my condolences for sweet little Jane. She was quite a cutie.
I know, thank you. It's been so. Just a little bit of our background. We were raised by parents from the Depression. They say, there's a saying that says there's only one thing worse than going through a depression, and that's having parents that went through a depression. But they were total trusting of big pharma and medical, total trusting. So we had every available vaccine given to us as children, right? And as we started having our own, as got married and had our own children, we just marched them in and did it. We had no, never even thought of it. Never thought of the any
No reason not to.
no reason
that
not to. We just, you know, so this is our background. We're late comers to this. Late
Well,
comers.
I think a lot of us are latecomers because we don't get thrown into it until we have to. I mean, when
Right.
we were younger, we had maybe 12 jabs on the schedule. But now if you look at the schedule, you know, our kids are getting 72 and climbing.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. And what really opened us up with which happened to many of us was, well, for me, it started with certain like flu jabs, but then when the COVID jab came out, that
Totally opened our eyes.
I knew right off the bat that it was there was something, just how they were pushing it. Now, Sue here, she knows some of the names and the people that you're talking about because she started right off the bat studying this stuff. And I took more of the approach of how it was being presented to us, that I knew there was something not right about it. And so that's kind of our background. And then of course our granddaughter that didn't really have to do with
the COVID.
the COVID, but just one of her treatments, and she had several of these, was $40,000.
It was 60.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 60,000 for one of these treatments. This is so much about money and so much about control, and it's infiltrated in every aspect schooling or education, government, political, and religious. It just has this thread. So that's kind of where we're coming from. I'd like to hear both of your stories. And you mentioned a little bit about your three of your children. So how did you, what was the catalyst that said, you know what, I need to be involved in an organization that protects our children and ourselves? Either one of you go.
I know for me, I'll start for a minute, Kristen. I don't think most people like me ever think that we're going to be sitting in this position. We usually get put into this position because something has happened to kind of as a catalyst to, you know, kind of catapult you into a different dynamic. But, you know, I trusted my doctors. I trusted the science, everything's safe and effective. You know, that's the mantra that we've been sold our whole lives until it happens to you. And, you know, my oldest, who is 28 now, was injured at birth by the hepatitis B jab. And that was the first time. I didn't think that was ever possible, but she was severely injured. And I didn't recognize that for a few years until I had my second child, my boy, who then also became injured. And as I was watching this pattern continue and started researching, my eyes were opened. And, you know, you just, when you start really doing the research and going down some of those rabbit holes, you realize how scanty the science really is. There really isn't a lot of good science behind the childhood schedule. And so a lot of us are in this position just because it's happened to us, it's happened to our kids. My kids ended up being diagnosed with autism and lots of other health problems. And, you know, we've spent 30 years in this space with all kinds of therapy and treatments and all kinds of things to try to recover. I have 3 vaccine injured kids, 3 of my 4. And, you know, by the time I got to the third one, I thought, okay, there's something seriously wrong here. So my job is to really help educate other parents to do things better than I did them, to give them the information that I wish somebody had given me.
So I just have to ask this question.
Sure.
Why do you think some are affected by it and others, this is the argument I hear all the time. Well, my children are fine, or I was fine, and I got all that. This is the question that I think has to be addressed, because I think it's the common argument that you're kind of nuts to think it's you, it's not the system.
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that all the time. And I think there's many factors, many variables in there. Don't think there's just one answer. For my particular situation of family, I do believe that we have a genetic predisposition to be affected by lots of triggers. That could be the jabs, that could be environmental factors like different foods, environmental toxins. I think there's lots of ways that people can be injured, your kids can be injured. But with the jabs, that is one thing that tends to supersede many of the other triggers, because it's one thing that's not ingested, it's actually injected right into your body. And that makes a really big difference for your immune system.
Great point. I like that. And then I'm thinking too, is some people suffer from addictions more than others. They could take substances and go, well, that wasn't really for me. And then others take it and it's almost like they're immediately addicted. So so this really gets into why we need freedom to choose.
So there is one other thing to consider too, and that is what is fine. My kids are fine. So my kids, I don't know if it was caused by the vaccine or the jabs. Sorry, I'm having trouble with that.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Just go. Just do it.
But I have 3 daughters with autoimmune issues. And I could say, well, it wasn't the jabs that affected them, but it could have been. It could have been that. And so you think your kids are fine, but if you really sit down, like when I first met Andrew Wakefield, I was driving with him after the event that we had just had. And he said, so are your children healthy? And I said, no. No, they're not. And I had not even thought about there being any correlation until that point. And then I realized all of those children had had at least some. And it wasn't until probably about a year before, well, no, it was a few years before that, that I had a very strong impression that I should stop using those particular products with my children. And then a couple of years after being heckled by my brother and other people about endangering the entire species,
Yes.
I decided that it was time for me to research and find out why I wasn't doing it, rather than just depending on the spiritual prompting that I had to stop.
Yeah.
And so I did start researching, and that is where I got into all of this. Up until that point, I had been involved in politics. I had been my biggest passion was educating people on how to be effectively involved in the process. And so I was involved in the Republican Party. I had just become the secretary of the Utah County Republican Party, and that position taught me a lot of things, but it also, I think it opened a lot of doors for me to be able to work with people and help them to understand the issue. So at the same time as I was doing that, I was educating myself and bringing in speakers and learning so much from these speakers who had been in this arena for 20 plus years already by the time I came in. Um, and I suddenly understood, why did I stop doing this? And I wish that I had known a long time before that, because I believe that my children would be much healthier had I known more to begin with.
Yeah.
So Kristen has the, and we may have those genetic predispositions as well. We haven't checked to see, but there are the predispositions, but there are also the injuries that we don't recognize as being injuries. And I think there are a lot of those.
Which is one reason COVID really opened our eyes, because adults can tell you if they get injured. They're very aware, but babies don't have a voice. They just scream or cry, and parents don't recognize what an injury might look like. And so it's interesting that what I've been observing now for almost 30 years really became open to the public view during COVID, when adults were now taking the jab and starting to see all kinds of injuries or after downstream effects, and going, well, hey, wait a second, I don't feel good, or I don't feel right, or somebody died, or somebody is sick. They're just experiencing maybe what our children have been experiencing for a very long time.
That is such a great insight. It's because the adults that could speak and
could voice it.
And they could voice it. That is such a great insight. I never had thought of that. And I think you're absolutely right, because our young children, it was just like, oh, this must be my life. I don't know any different.
Well, they don't feel well and they can't voice it other than crying or acting out or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay, that's
do you know about the vaccine adverse event reporting system? They call it VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System.
Yes.
So that system has been in effect since, I think it was 1990. Was that when it went into effect? I know there was the 1986 Act, and then it was a few years after that they put this system into place. And what it is a voluntary reporting system. If you are injured by a jab, see how I did that? Rolled right off the tongue. And or if a medical professional gets a report of someone who has been injured, it's supposed to be reported to this vaccine adverse event reporting system. So I was looking at some charts that my brother is a statistician, and I sent him some information. I said, can you make me some charts? So one of those will be in your packet on Friday. But there was one, it's a bar graph, and it shows the number of adverse events reported, and it's steadily going up as we get into the COVID years. And then it's either 2021 or 2022. I think it's 2021. It just goes, whew. just shoot straight up, almost to the top of the page. And that is what Kristen is talking about. We know that the adults and the children old enough to articulate what's happening to them are saying things in close proximity to the jab. They're saying, this is how I feel now, and the jab was this many hours past. Or like I have an aunt who went blind on her way home from the doctor's office. She lost vision in one eye and is struggling with the other eye. And it's been years. She's been, I mean, however many years since COVID. And she's been to Germany twice for surgeries to try to get her vision back. So the reports that came in during that time period of injury just shot through the roof. And I appreciate you saying that, Kristen, because I was talking to my brother trying to figure out why there were so few. It's partly because people didn't know about VAERS, but it's also partly because people don't know how to recognize injury or articulate injury.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part.
You mentioned, can't remember the guy's name, but he co-authored the book with RFK Jr., right?
Brian Hooker.
Brian Hooker. So I think this window of opportunity we have right now with Robert Kennedy Jr. making more people aware of really what an injury looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And he has taken so much abuse, and now he's been proven that he was right. And it wasn't just because he had some special insights or this or that. He was actually defending people as an attorney and going after, big pharma and whatnot for what they had caused in these people's lives. And we could talk about health as far as food goes too, but now he's on the forefront, and he has a platform to speak of these things. And I listened to probably 3 or 4 very lengthy podcasts with him on there because I didn't really know a lot of who he was. This started for me about 1.5 years ago. He seems like the most genuine, honest, upfront, sincere individual out there. He has everything to lose as far as his reputation. He has his family against him on many of these things. But when you hear him and listen to him speak, you feel a sincerity and an honesty that is rare today. It's rare today. And so I think this is another reason, just his voice alone has been another reason why a lot of this is coming out.
Well, he said, I only have 10 years left.
Yeah, he did say that.
I only have 10 years left to be any kind of influence in this for the world. And he says, and I need to do it. And I thought, if he is ready to give up everything for this, he's authentic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so maybe next year you can get him to speak at the Gala.
I would love to get him. We've tried to get him for a while too, but yes, I will try harder. Definitely.
Oh, well,
How about the gala?
the Gala. Do we need to talk more about it?
Well, we just
Maybe
need
it's
to
just-
know.
You just want to run through the details one more time?
Yes, please.
I want to run
Okay.
through the details, and I want to just talk. I have a couple of other things. So yeah, let's
Okay.
just run through that again.
Okay, so the awards gala is this Friday. We have a few tickets left, and we would love to have the room completely full. So if you have any inclination to come, please do. Tickets are available at Your Health Freedom, all one word, yourhealthfreedom.org. We have John Stockton, who I don't think I need to explain who he is. If I do, just Google him. You'll find out who he is.
Yeah.
We have Dr. Brian Hooker, who is an all-star in his own right. not on the basketball court, but definitely in the science arena.
He is
We
from
have,
Children's Health Defense as well. If anyone's familiar with Children's Health Defense, amazing organization. He is what the I can't remember his title at Children's Health Defense. Maybe you could help me
Chief
with that, but
Scientific Officer, I think is what
there you
his
go.
title
Yes, Chief
is.
Scientific Officer.
Yeah. But we just know he's awesome. So,
Yeah.
so they are our two keynote speakers. And then we have also Dr. Kenneth Oliver, who is local. He's in Lehigh. He runs the neuro clinic, and he's another superstar.
Dang.
So what was that?
I just said,
You know,
dang. I've
you
heard
know,
of him. So that's a good
yeah,
one.
he's
Yeah.
amazing, and he's doing really good work, and he's actually seen an uptick in neurological problems over the COVID span.
Mhm.
We have Al Jackson, who is a former state senator here in Utah. He's in Virginia now, and he does a lot of policy work, but he also he's on the board of Moms for America. And he is just an amazing person, amazing storyteller. You were talking about the genuine feel that you get from RFK. I wanted to mention that with all of these people that we have coming, they are just real. They are real
Yes.
people, and their hearts are golden. They're just good people. And I'm so grateful for each one of them for different reasons.
And they do
Jared
this because
St.
they
Clair,
believe in it so strongly. I mean, they fly out here, they come out, they
yeah,
spend their time, a lot of it at their own expense, just to come out and share the message because they
yeah.
believe so strongly in it. And we're so grateful.
Awesome.
So I don't know if you know Jared St. Clair, but he is also speaking, and Jared and Al are both on our advisory board. Jared started a health food store. Well, he started working in a health food store that was owned by his parents at the age of 15. He's in Bountiful. And he bought the store from them when he was in his early 20s, maybe 21. And he's been running the store ever since. And he creates a lot of his own supplements because of the research that he's done into different ailments and conditions. And so he's created a lot of supplements. And he also does a podcast, Vitality Radio. And he started during COVID doing one called Dearly Discarded, where he interviewed people who had been injured by the COVID jabs. So he's just another amazing person. And we're just so fortunate to be able to interact with these people and to just have their spirit connect with us. And I'm just excited for people who have not met them to be able to meet them and just be in the room and feel the goodness of these speakers. The other thing that we're doing is we're giving awards to people who have done excellent work in trying to protect health freedom. Last year, we gave awards to 5 legislators. This year, we're giving awards to 3 legislators and 2 citizen advocates. Not because we don't have other legislators that we would want to give awards to, but we thought that the citizen advocates deserve some recognition as well. So we have 3 legislators who have worked hard on bills to make health freedom more accessible. And then we have Brianne Dressen, who was a volunteer for the AstraZeneca jab, and her life was destroyed.
Changed.
And
Yep.
yeah, and then we have
She now
Gopi
runs React
Krishna.
19. I don't know if you want to mention
Yeah.
that, but she now runs React 19, which helps those who've been injured by the COVID jab to
Yeah,
receive medical intervention. Because I don't know if most people realize, but yes, because in 1986, Congress passed an act that gave the pharmaceutical companies immunity. So if you are injured by a jab, you cannot actually go back and sue them. You can do that on any medical product, any pharmaceutical drug, but the jabs are like a whole wing in themselves. And if you are ever injured by a jab, you cannot go back and sue them. So they have complete immunity from any liability for their products, which doesn't make them always the safest or
and
most effective.
it's even worse than that with the COVID jabs, because the COVID jabs fall under countermeasures and they are protected under the PrEP Act. So with regular jabs, you can sue people for administrative error or things unrelated to the jab itself, like they did it wrong or there was ill intent or whatever, you could sue for that. With the COVID jabs, because they're under the PrEP Act and they're covered not by the vaccine court, but by countermeasures, there is almost nothing that you
Yeah.
can do.
Because it was under some emergency act, and so exempt. All the big
Emergency
pharma is
authorization.
exempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just it's
So
such a
that's
racket.
Brianne has helped tens of thousands of people who have been injured, and she's given them moral support. She's helped to find them medical attention, and she's an amazing human being who's doing all this in spite of the fact that she herself is injured severely. And the last one is Gopi Krishna. Gopi is from India, and he's a physicist, and he's also a humanitarian, I guess is what I would call him. He is so generous with his time and his talents. He has a brilliant mind, and he has helped to draft several of the bills that we have passed in Utah over the past 5 years, and put tons of time and effort into explaining things to people and finding background information. So he's the other one who's getting an award. So we're coming together to honor these people who have helped our community, and also to learn from these other people who are helping our community, and then to help finance more advocacy on this issue. And we have a harpist who's coming to play, and everybody's going to dress up nicely, and it's just a really fun event. We've done it several years now, and everybody goes away saying it was just fabulous. They just love it. So,
Well, that's
and the
why I'm
next
wearing
day-
a white shirt and tie today, because I usually wear a t-shirt. So I thought I would dress up a little bit. No, we just
Well,
came
thank
from
you.
no, we came from an event and didn't have time, but I will be dressed in my Sunday best, and you'll probably get an opportunity to go buy something.
Nice.
Oh, bonus.
How do we get up with that?
Well,
Nothing like
this has
getting to go
been,
buy something.
yeah, this has been a treat.
Do you have anything else you'd like to
Yeah.
add?
Anything that just you feel like needs to be said?
So I think it's important for people to understand that our organization has been instrumental in educating thousands of people over the past 10 years. People who maybe had just some inclination to listen, who now understand. I think also we've had a huge influence on the legislators and helping them to understand that there is actually a different point of view than the one that they always hear. Not every legislator wants to listen to us or learn, but a lot of them have, and I think they've learned a whole lot over the last 10 years, even before COVID.
Yeah.
We've been instrumental in passing many of these bills. We've stopped bills, we've run bills, we work hard all year long, and we work for free. So
Well, I mean,
Wow.
we
Can't beat
often
that.
get shadow banned, just like you can't
Yeah.
say the V word, on all of our platforms, we get shadow banned, we get canceled, we've been in Facebook
Yep.
jail. So we really appreciate platforms like yours allowing us a voice so we can get this information out there, because I really believe that COVID awakened a large, part of the population that maybe didn't understand the
Yeah.
issue, whereas many of us have
Absolutely.
been in this fight for a long time. But it's awesome to see people waking up to the corruption, to maybe a different narrative that they didn't believe before, and to look at things in a different way. And so we love the opportunity to educate people, talk to people, and definitely gather for a good
Yeah.
dinner, in a fun environment, and to have amazing speakers come in and just share the advocacy efforts that are really making a difference.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Sue,
thank
do you
you.
have anything else you want to say?
I'm really thrilled. I think I've led just a sheltered life. I've known these things are wrong. I've known it for, a while. like Scott said, we grew up believing in the whatever they are,
The system.
the system. And, you know, and fortunately we were okay. I'm not saying, but I just think that there's so much that has come to view. Like, for instance, how many children now have autism. And it's like 1 out of every 34 children have autism, which is
I think
just
I read
something that,
22 in Utah. It's now 1
Yeah.
out of every 22.
And
But
still
go ahead.
climbing.
Yes.
Still
well,
climbing.
see, that's criminal. And why aren't people concerned about it? Why aren't they up in arms? Why aren't they shouting this from the rooftops? Why do they go along with this and think that this is a special club? Oh, look how wonderful. Now we get all this extra whatever. I would be marching if that was my child, marching.
Yeah, it's a tough battle. And, you know, again, we really appreciate you letting us having a voice here, because, you know, these kids don't have a voice, so we have to be their voice. And if we can help one other family not experience the hardships that many of us have gone through, just by sheerly educating them on things they probably just never heard, because the mainstream media is not telling the truth. They're not giving them the facts. Their doctors aren't giving them informed consent. You know, if I could stop one family from having to go through what my kids have gone through, it would have all been worth it. And Kristen would say the same.
You know, it's so hard to fight the system by yourself. But if you know that there's a group of people out there that are fighting the system like you two have, and like all the other wonderful, wonderful people, it makes things so much easier when you have a group of people that can gather, and you know that you have a friend in your realm that can help you out, because that's what we need. We need friends to gather to do this, to fight this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Gathering is
And
really amazing. To have strength in
so
numbers, it's helpful.
along those lines, we also have a picnic on Saturday. Do you remember the address off the top of your head, Kristen? Or
Oh,
can
South
we
Jordan
send you?
Riverfront Parkway, but we can send the flyer out to
We
them.
can send you the flyer for the picnic if you
Okay.
can post it. And we'd love for the picnic is free. You just bring your own lunch and come enjoy we've got some games and popcorn and
Dr. Hooker will be there signing his book.
yes. And
Really?
we're actually,
So
yes.
yeah, give me that information, and then I'll put that as one of the links as well, so that people, if they want to come to that, they can
And
do
it's
that.
also, the information is at yourhealthfreedom.org. They're both on the homepage.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
if you just go to yourhealthfreedom.org, both of those events should be right there.
Now,
So yeah, that's just a fun event.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, Kristen, if we wanted to purchase a book, we purchase it before and then he can sign it, or can we purchase the book
I have
there?
books. I have books.
Okay.
We
I've
have
got
lots of
50
books.
Yeah, so there should be
Okay.
enough. There should be enough for you to buy. I mean, unless hordes of people come and want them, we should be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we're going to end this pretty quick, but I want you two to stay on and we'll chat, and then I'll have that edited out. But so don't hang up right when we're done. Okay.
Okay.
So Sue and I have talked. We're getting older. I am. We're closer to 70 than we are 60. And the older we get, the more we realize that we want to hang out with people that we really love being with. And you two are that group that we love hanging out with you. We can feel a good spirit. We can feel your goodness and your sacrifice.
Why waste our time with people who want to fight against you?
Yeah,
all the time.
It's just not.
And tell you that you're, you know, not inspired, that you haven't been led by the Spirit, that you are deceived.
Yeah, and that you're affecting, by you not getting a certain thing, you're causing other people to get something, to fall. Yeah. So we've heard it all. We've been through it. But hanging out with you two has been just a joy. Thank you.
Well, likewise, we feel
time.
the same.
Yeah, I've been listening to you for a long time, so this is a treat for me because I always just listen to you, but this time we actually get to talk and interact. And like I told Scott, I already feel like we're friends because I've been listening to you for a long time. And I'm like, I need to text Sue and get her brownie recipe, and I need to figure out who she's talking to and what all of her treatments are. I swear we have a lot of the same treatments and friends in the background. So one day we'll get together for lunch and we'll compare notes. It'll be fun.
That'd be great.
That would be awesome. Well, we'll see you at the gala. I'll put the information on, and God bless, and thanks for joining us today.
It's been our
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you for having us on.
Bye-bye.